I think that song was the perfect balancing act. A very perfect example of what we go on sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes moment by moment, trying to balance the truth we know with the life we're living. Thomas Merton said, "Behind everything visible is an invisible wholeness." And that's what that faith and belief was lifting, is our limited human existence, lifting it to the understanding that there's something so much more happening right now. Not sometimes, but always. There's that wholeness in us. And I believe that all of us, at least I know for myself, that the purpose of life is restoring that wholeness, that we can live it and be it. And wholeness is, if we defined it, a dynamic balancing act of consciousness. That we can have an easy movement between our mind and our heart and our physical being, our individuality, and the world outside, our inner life and outer life. It's not balancing, the balancing act is not having the, I don't even know if I should try a tree pose on a heel, but the wobbleless tree pose, that's not what it is. It's finding the medium in life, the place that touches. And if you look at that balancing act, is what a lot of us feel like, especially during the holidays, right? How are we going to get all this done? But this is the ancient Chinese symbol of yin and yang. The yin is the dark, receptive, feminine part of this circle. And the yang is the bright, active, masculine side of the circle. Now, light and dark seem like opposites, but notice that each one holds a piece of the other. Neither part is separate and divided. There's a part of each that is held, and then there's that line, that fluid line, because you see, balance, it sounds like rigid and holding still, but true, authentic balance is fluidity and flexibility. That's what that is. And I think this is a perfect, and the circle represents its universal nature. The circle is a sacred symbol of universality, of unity, and oneness. Now, we may think we live in a world of duality. We have light, dark, masculine, feminine. What you were reading, and was so perfect about what we live in, what we experience in life, that duality, but we are held in a unity, in a wholeness, and they're not separate. Unity and duality are not separate, which is our minds try to tell us that sometimes. It is that line right there where the two pretty obvious opposites meet. It's called the threshold, where they meet along that line. And if you look at that symbol, I believe, and what the ancient Chinese said, is this is a symbol that these opposing colors and signs are not separate, but they're interconnected. They're related, and they're interrelated. And they felt that the duality and the unity brought harmony to the world and the universe. And we've got a lot to work on, don't you think? I mean, so much in the world right now, we see that division and separateness has gotten to be people's truth. And we have to get back to that place where we're comfortable where the two meet. Are you comfortable there? Are you comfortable where the two different opposing sides of anything can get together and meet? Boy, that's tested me this week. People I don't know have just challenged me, and I thought, oh, how could someone do that? And then I thought of this sign, I thought, ooh, that's me. How am I like that? I had to think how I was judgy when I heard some, oh well, anyway, I won't explain it, but I heard some judgment. I was like, whoa, that's terrible. I wanted to go up and slap the women for talking like that. And then I thought, ooh, where am I like that? That must be a message for me. And Kirk and I were driving to World Market to get something. And so this young man drove out cut us off, and Kirk honked, and he laid on his horn. He didn't do any other signs, but he laid on his horn, and he just glared at us, and I thought, who could be that angry? And I was like, oh, where am I like that? This was my reminder, because we're not separate. We have to learn that we're all everything. We've got all of us, all of it in us, and we have to learn how to let the best version of ourselves be the predominant side. But we have to remember, we're part of it all. If we cannot hold that threshold, that medium line, then we're only a half person. We're only one side of our whole being. We're not the whole picture. If you were here last week, I said Rumi was kind of mad at me because I hadn't talked much about him lately. So we're back in good graces again. And so here's 2 quotes by Rumi. He talks about the same thing that Mark Nepo talked about, is we have to work hard and surrender. Rumi said, life is a balance of holding on and letting go. He said, your hands open and they close. They open and they close. If they were always a fist or always straight, they'd be paralyzed. They wouldn't be flexible. They wouldn't be able to bend and move. Your deepest presence is in every small contracting and expanding, the two as beautifully balanced and coordinated as the wings of a bird. And if we can just think of the opening and closing, the breathing, the movement is the balance in life. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, the balance in life that's keeping us going. And if we want to do that, the most important thing, I'm going to talk about 2 different separate but balancing acts that I just want to focus on today. One is the balancing act between our head and our heart. And remember, that's the longest distance in the whole world, because when the head gets too much in control and tries to go to the heart, it either represses all the things it doesn't like, if it finds emotional trauma that's been undealt with, if it finds negative emotions that haven't been dealt with, if it finds trauma in all of our life that hasn't been dealt with, that we haven't sat down and cried and sobbed and gotten all of that energy out, we repress it and we can't possibly get to the heart. And the heart is where we meet God. The heart is where God speaks to us. Mother Teresa said, it is in the heart of silence, that God speaks. And she gave us a good lesson in this. She said, anyone who does not forgive cannot find that place of silence. God needs the silence to speak. And that's why that song was so important. You say, yes, God speaks in the language of feeling and intuition and instinct and insight and inspiration. It's that feeling energy. But if we're so bogged down with things we haven't worked with because we think life should be perfect or we should be perfect, then we're not going to be able to get to that place. And so Mother Teresa said, anyone who does not forgive cannot have a heart of silence, because the mind is too busy thinking about that person or that situation or na 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 na. So we've got to really work on that place of forgiveness so we can be open to a greater experience. So I want you to think, when you meet these things, that line right there of somebody not acting or being or doing, whether it's yourself or someone else, the way you think they should be, what needs to be addressed? What needs to be looked at? What needs to be done? Because when we do that, this is from beautiful Alan Cohen said, when you come together with your other half, which can be very scary at times, believe me, you immediately experience a sense of wholeness and completion. Because you're open, you're available, you're there to participate in the world. We have to go deeply within ourselves. Find that place of silence so we can hear the truth and understand. You can understand what emotional trauma is, what's going on when you take the time and space to do that and write about it and feel it and know it. And when you get to that place, I want you right now to think about it. Can you feel that place inside you that is that divine spark of life We're born to create. We're born to be creative beings. We're born to be emotional and creative, but once we touch that spark of, that divine spark of creativity, we can be inspired to do what, when those two places that seem contrary or opposite meet, when they rub together, there's a spark because something new wants to be born. I'm going to say that again, because that's what I try to remember. When there's that rub, do you know what I mean by the rub? Something just irritates the heck out of you. It's probably worse than that, but that's just the first step. That rub wants something new to be born, wants a new idea, a new feeling, a new understanding about life to be born. Jesus was very good at the rub. He could be in situations that were very, very difficult, but he could still see the goodness in all people because he knew the laws of life, that God is love, God is goodness. There is something more in everyone and everything, including ourselves. And if you and I make the commitment to do the inner work, that's the combination between the spirit and the soul, the human soul, we do that inner work, then is the next balancing act that we need to do. So we find that inspiration, we find that creative energy that wants something new, something more. It can be little. There's no size in the mind of God. It's whatever we are, wherever we are, we can do that rub. So think about where your rub is right now, because rub happens all the time. Every day, probably. Every day we get a rub. So what's the newness that wants to be born? What's the something else that wants to happen here? We get to think about that. But then the other balancing act is our inner world and our outer world. I mean, we have people that are more extroverts and introverts, but we all, once again, need that balance of doing our work. And our outer work is when we get inspired and then we express life. Here's what Ernest Holmes said about the balancing act. He said, when the mind swings, there's that fluidity again, swings from inspiration to action, from contemplation to accomplishment, and from prayer to performance. We're putting wings and feet on our prayers, our inspiration, our contemplation. This would be a well-balanced existence. It's when we learn that we are not to be. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means embracing brokenness as an integral part of life. It's because where there's brokenness is a space where light and inspiration come through. So it's learning how to use everything in our life as a balancing act. So right now, I want you to just think with me, just close your eyes for a moment. We're going to close this part of our service right now. Just put your feet on the floor. Feel the holy ground, the firm ground that we stand upon, and open your heart to the openness. Right now, the openness of this beautiful circle of life that we're part of. This beautiful evolutionary spiral cycle upwards that's pulling us to something more in every moment, to bring all pieces of ourself together, that we can know that we are made in the image and likeness of love. That whatever experience is going on with us right now is an opportunity for us to know, to feel, to be, to integrate, and to know that right where we are, God is. Right where we are, love is. Right where we are without even moving, we can be in this participatory circle of this thing that we call life as we send out our prayers to those that are in pain, that those that have lost, that those are in need of love right now, that we can send out our joy to the celebration of those who are in the victory, the joy, the celebration of life. We can join them in that. And this we call the beautiful dance of life, the beautiful circle of life of which we are all a part. So just in our mind's eye, let's imagine, as Tina was saying earlier, we're holding the hands of the community we love, and we're sharing that energy right now. and sending that goodness, that joy, that peace, the healing out into the world. It was John O'Donohue that said, a blessing is a circle of light that we put around people and situations and communities. We put around our whole world to bring gratitude and healing and celebration. How good it is to be alive, how good it is to be here today, how good it is to celebrate, to love, to share with one another. And as we just close that prayer right now with "and so it is," I invite you to open your eyes and just say after me, I am whole. I am balanced. I am alive. I'm alert. I'm enthusiastic. I look good. I feel good. I am good. I really am. And so are you. And so it is. God bless you all. I love you all. Thank you.